Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn, Hinderaker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. It's a whole new era. Thanks for watching us here on WowBiz Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderaker with my commentator today, Bruce Arant.
Hello.
Happy to see you back again. And we're talking about something that is emerging now as a primary consideration as many companies say, okay, we're going to try to get sales back up. We're going to try to generate revenue now. And so we're going to focus on sales. And of course, many companies have learned that marketing and lead generation, especially in B2B, is extremely important. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we've been wiped out and kind of pushed down and so on. So I'm thinking, and I want to ask your opinion on this. Do you think that most companies, and we're talking about, we'll say small to medium-sized firms, are they in a mood of, I'm open to doing brand new things and thinking new thoughts? Or is their attitude, I just want to get back to where we were in January of 2020? What do you think, Bruce Arant?
That's a great question. I think a lot of people just want to get back on their feet.
They just want to get restored.
They want to get, that's right. They just want to, let's get this thing going again.
Yeah.
And I think if they're forward thinking, they might be thinking that I might have to approach things differently, than I did before, because it's a different world.
Well, I was thinking that, and I've been kind of carrying that kind of thinking around in my head for several weeks now. This is wonderful. I love to talk about transformational strategy and so on. Yeah. But then I kind of stumbled into a few people that indirectly said, I don't want to talk about that. I just want to get back to where we were. Huh. And I'm wondering if that's healthy or not,
Well, I think I think it's going to be one step at a time, and I think the first step is just to get yourself back on 2 feet.
Yeah, as a legitimate operation, and you're generating some revenue and have employees wherever.
Right. Yeah. Right. And whether they're working virtually for you or whatever, and then maybe take on some new ideas.
Okay. So we know that revenue is extreme. If revenue is flowing, everything else is possible.
Right.
Right. So that means sales and marketing and business development and all that. Right. And one of the things that I think we both have seen is during the evolution of the world of marketing and advertising and promotion, all that, is that over this last, I want to say 5 to 10 years, there's an increasing resistance to paid advertising. I'll call it conventional display ads, TV ads, in-your-face ads, come on down today ads, and it's being slowly displaced by what I would call, I think would be called content marketing. Mm-hmm. Native advertising is another phrase. What's your take on that?
Something with a little bit more of a message, or a helpful message, not just an advertising message, but something of value to the actual user.
Yes.
Maybe whether it's inspirational or actually informational.
Educational, big time.
Educational, right.
Yeah, but this can be debated, right? It's not just a hands-down decision.
Right.
More and more people are placing their own Facebook ads. People are sending them emails all day long. I'll tell you how to boost your business, 300% in 6 days with Facebook ads, right? You hear it all the time.
That sounds like a Facebook ad.
Yes, it does. And those are hard to turn down. But more and more people are looking at these content marketing things. And the key idea there, I think, is an artful fusion of news, advertising, something kind of helpful, something you'd want to read and feel like you've learned something, and then a subtle promotional or brand message woven into that material. Either that or right at the very end, the last paragraph is, if you'd like more of this, da-da-da-da-da, and here's a company that can help you with this general idea. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it needs to be, and that's all true, but I think the key to this is it needs to be a sincere message with actual really helpful information and a sincerity from the company to actually put something out there that is going to benefit people. And then, obviously drop their product in to the mix.
Yeah, exactly. People have said, oh, well, you're just talking about infomercials, and they're cheesy and insincere and manipulative and blah, 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 and we don't want to have anything to do with that. But I'll tell you about something that is interesting, and that would be the Dove soap campaign from several years ago. I don't know if you heard about that. Very effective. This kind of turned the corner on this kind of marketing. Dove, brilliant, focused on a kind of a lengthy, I think it was a YouTube video, was how they debuted the idea. And it was focusing on young women, maybe 12, 13, 14-year-old girls.
Okay.
And by the way, that's the age when I guess their research told them they actually start caring about a branded type of soap product. But more importantly, these young ladies are they're insecure, they want affirmation, they're
discovering
nervous,
themselves.
discovering themselves, their femaleness and so on, and they're also nervous about their appearance. Mm-hmm. And so the message was from Dove, you're okay, self-esteem, be fearless. Affirming, yeah. You can do it, you can be there, et cetera, et cetera. And oh, by the way, utilize our product when appropriate, very soft sell.
And when did this come out?
This would have been about 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, probably around 2016, something like that. And that's when everybody said, see, that's what we want to be doing, right? Huh. But it's very imagey. And it's an image thing. And so sales, I mean, it's exactly the opposite of, come on in this week and get 2 for 1 on the bars of soap, right? I mean, they're worlds apart, right? And there are a lot of businesses that I think would like to have, they like the cash flow input on the sales promotion.
It really depends on the audience, though, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, who's hearing this and how are they going to digest what you're saying? Maybe some people aren't offended by the, call now and you'll, double your offer, but others are turned off by that kind of thing. Yeah.
So here we go, kind of going down this step. And so I guess I just want to tell our audience here on WowBiz Nebraska, if you are focused on generating revenue, you want to get leads for your salespeople. Right? Do not send your salespeople out without the benefit of having some advance, an email blast or direct mail, something. Right. But of course they will, that, right? They'll say, I pay them good money. Get out there and hit the bricks.
Cold calling.
Yeah, go ahead. And but I think this is the time for them to think about, all of them, what kind of content marketing, whether it's a video, it could be an ebook or an e-zine, right? Anything that pulls people in and is clearly helpful data, like insight, research, and so on. Or I like the idea of the emotion component. We're talking about what it's like to whatever the attribute that the product delivers.
Right.
Or maybe talking. Here's the angle. Really, the best one, Bruce, I think, is find the problems, of course, that the end user has, and really milk those emotions. Focus 70% of the whole thing on dealing with these problems from an emotional point of view.
And offer a solution.
Yeah, and then offer a solution towards the back end. Right. And it could be a 2-page or a mini essay or something like that.
Or even a video.
Yes, yes, as a matter of fact. Now, if somebody called you up and said, I'd like you to think about doing something like this for us, authoring or editing this kind of paper, and it could be a video as well. What would be your first, how would you attack it first? You'd probably want to ask some questions.
I would be asking who their target audience is.
Yes.
I mean, that's the first thing. And what do they feel their target audience needs? And how can they address it? I mean, how are you going to how do you want to address it? Or how do you want to fix the problem?
Especially at this time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially as we come out of this COVID-19 thing and we have apprehension that maybe there's going to be a second chapter, maybe this is going to go on for another year or two. Right. So you got to assume, I think you can safely assume, that the average end user, no matter what the product is going to be insecure, nervous, not too trusting.
Right.
Easily procrastinate. I'll just go back in the house and hang out for another 2 weeks while I think about this. You know what I'm saying?
But the message has to be, it's not about the seller, it's about the buyer.
It's about the buyer.
I mean, you gotta focus on them and what are their needs. The seller is going to be, they're going to be brought along into the equation.
Yes.
But you have to focus your attention on the buyer.
Yeah, and be relevant to them. Yeah. I just read a book by Paul Cherry about questioning when you're prospecting on the phone. You might be cold calling, you might be calling a company, And you get the boss on the phone or whatever, and talking about questions, see, and they said one of the interesting things is saying something like, in the trade journal, the industry of blah blah blah, the magazine, I just read that, blah 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 blah, kind of an apprehensive concern, some trend or research thing, and then you ask them, how are you coping with that? Right? What are your thoughts about that? And I think that's such a powerful thing as part of this broader thing of being able to summon the courage to not talk about your product.
Right. But to engage them.
Engage them.
That's relevant.
Give me some advice or thoughts about your perspective on this problem that I know is an industry problem. Yeah. So I think that kind of goes along with your general principle.
And the key to that is actually caring what they have to say about that.
Well, yes.
Really listening.
Absolutely.
Not just letting them respond and then try to go to your pitch. That's not the point. You
Yes.
want to really hear them and see if there is a way that you really can help.
Yeah, yeah. I think the follow-up question, and you tell me, I would be tempted to say, and I'd say, if that problem could be resolved comfortably and within budget or whatever, is that something you would have a conversation about? Would you discuss that,
Because that's not threatening, that's not pushy.
I don't think so. That sounds pretty consultative to me, very interesting. Well, Bruce, it's great to have you back again here on WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to talk about you for a couple minutes and what's been going on in your life, and then we're going to get back to a brand new section, also associated with this kind of emerging new era that we're a part of.
Yeah.
All right. So right here on WowBiz Nebraska, we want to thank you for checking us out. There's timely trends, lots of instruction, education, and we're talking about the same things you're talking about, whether you're visiting with your pals or on Zoom, chatting with people. By the way, we're going to be talking about Zoom in the coming weeks, and how to start a Zoom meeting or a Zoom group, how to pull that off from a technical as well as, frankly, a conversational point of view.
Something we never would have thought we'd be addressing.
Can you believe that?
3 months ago.
I think every Zoom meeting should be held like right here, and you and I could be kind of facilitating and keeping it flowing, don't you think? Sure. All right, we'll see you soon. Right here on WowBiz Nebraska, we'll be right back, and we're going to change the focus of the show right now and talk to Bruce Arant. He's a well-known author and illustrator of children's books across the entire state of Nebraska. I've known Bruce Arant for over 20 years, 25 years maybe.
Probably at least that.
At least that. I met you at Design Basics.
Yes.
And you were the editor of their magazine, kind of their in-house magazine.
Yeah.
And when I met you, I was standing in the lobby, and I was trying to find somebody that I could just connect with.
I actually remember meeting you.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
I'm flattered.
I do.
I think you're coming up with that
No,
on the
I'm
spot.
not.
No,
I do remember it.
But you were very busy. You were trying to hit a deadline or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, what can I do for you? Real quick. I'm busy.
It was up by the front desk.
Yes.
Wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yep.
Yeah. You're elaborating on my situation. That's pretty good. So I thought, boy, this guy is really, I don't know. I don't see if I can get any progress with this dude. 25 years later on the show, which I appreciate. Thank you so much. What have you been doing lately and going through this COVID-19 period and the quarantine? And of course, you're, as I am, an independent contractor and a freelancer, so it's not as easy as it used to be.
Well, it's been, on one hand, devastating. On the other hand, it's been a real opportunity for me because a big part of my business, in fact, my illustrating work really has evolved over the years. To become more of a presenter. And I do, the main part of my business has become being a presenter at schools and libraries.
Yes.
Well, guess what? Everybody closed in March.
Right. So tell me what, there's a big gap there.
Right, my last school gig was March 10th. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to use this time to create content for a new book. So I actually repurposed a text from one manuscript that I had that's been rejected many times, but I've picked it up and I turned it into a COVID-related, and I don't mention COVID per se, but washing your hands, that kind of thing. Turned it into a whole new story with this character, and right now I'm working on artwork for a presentation that my agent will then pitch to publishers. Wow. So I'm hoping it'll be relevant, and it's funny and gross, and it's geared to this, to
the
kids.
younger folks.
Yeah, and it's
outstanding.
It's a fun thing.
Do you get into a mindset where you're saying, what is a 12-year-old thinking about, or how do they express themselves?
My litmus test: if I can make myself laugh, then I think it's okay. So I sit there and
That's a very honest comment.
I'll just start laughing, and
Sure.
I've found that actually seems to work.
Yeah.
Maybe
Good.
it's because I'm so immature.
Good for you. And I love the fact that you're repurposing. I personally realize that is a key skill. So many things I've done in the past and that they didn't work out. They're kind of just sitting there, a little polishing and shining and reconfiguring.
You've got the bones to something else,
Right, it's amazing. It really is. Well, should we go back to the second half of the show?
Sure.
All right. Here we are in WowBiz Nebraska with Bruce Arant. We're going to talk about something that is so pertinent for the back end of the year right now. And that is thinking about, we've got 6 months minimum, we've got at least 6 months in 2020, right? And a lot of businesses and communities are really hurting, as you know. So they're trying to figure out, what is reasonable and strategic for us to do?
Yeah.
And as you know, my company helps communities and groups like that kind of facilitate and come together, bring diverse points of view together around some kind of a vision of the future and a strategic plan. Ultimately, I love to do that.
People are going to need some kind of a roadmap, aren't they?
I would think, Bruce, but I want to pretend that you are an economic development director at a medium-sized community. We'll say Wayne, Nebraska.
Okay.
Just for the heck of it, we'll do a little role playing. And I call you up, and I'm just going to pitch you on bringing me in. Okay. And you've been there for some time, and you're doing a good job at your work. All right, so here we go, all right?
Okay.
Bruce, my name is Lynn Hinderaker. I'm with Growth Dynamics in Omaha, Nebraska. I work with a lot of economic development people like yourself, and because of the COVID-19 thing and the craziness we've all gone through, I thought you might be thinking about some kind of like a planning session or a meeting, and kind of get everybody together and talk about, the end of the year and strategy and getting everybody on the same page. Bruce, tell me just briefly, just following your instinct there, what's your basic thought about that? Do you do that kind of thing?
We have an economic development person here, and we've been trying to get some meetings going. We're starting to look toward the future, but what could you bring to the table that we don't have on the table?
That's a great question, and it's a question that the people in Scribner, I don't know if you've ever heard of Scribner, Nebraska.
Sure.
It's a very small town, great people, and they had the same response. But what they finally came around to, and of course they had to learn about my background in marketing and advertising and all that, and it has to do with a lot of this. And of course, being a talk show host doesn't hurt in those kinds of situations. But mostly what they said was, we like being, we're good at doing the graphs and the grants and the kind of the linear left brain stuff, but we're not visionary. There's nobody around here and that really has that personality or orientation.
Okay.
And we also like the idea of being able to sit on the sidelines and think rather than having to be responsible for facilitating and getting people to say things and so on. So we can participate objectively rather than worrying about driving the train. And so that was the reason they finally did hire me, and it went very, very well. And they said an hour and a half went by as if it were 15 minutes.
Wow.
That was their compliment to me. So I don't know.
Did they feel that you could identify with their community? You're not from that community, so how did you assimilate?
Yes. Well, I tried to introduce myself to them as a rural farm boy from central Iowa. That didn't hurt.
Yeah.
All that. So those are my roots. And I said, this is actually a big city compared to where I came from. So, But the principles are all the same, and having experience with McDonald's and Berkshire Hathaway and PepsiCo and people like that.
I've heard of them. They're all startups, right?
I've learned a few things, and why not take advantage of that experience in terms of pulling your community together and giving you a chance to really observe the community rather than drive the meeting forward, and that's an invaluable perspective. At least that's what they felt.
Okay. That does actually, I guess I'm not role playing now, but that makes sense to allow people to, like I say, observe it without having to try to drive the car.
Yeah, because you get self-conscious, and that's not what you really do for a living, where it is what I do for a living. So if you can just sit back and do what you do well, which is talking about the county and the community and contributing to the dialogue, rather than trying to facilitate the dialogue.
I would hope, at least a fresh perspective from the outside. Even if you're an outsider, I would think that could be seen, hopefully, as a as an advantage.
But particularly invaluable now.
Yeah.
I think. The other thing is most of these communities do have divisiveness going on. There is a little bit of tension or conflict about certain issues. In Scribner, it happened to be whether or not they should consolidate with another nearby school in Snyder and send all the little children in a bus every day to a community 9 miles away. And fire all the teachers at the local school. It's a very emotional and touchy issue, you know. And so they were nervous about people squaring off around that particular topic. My attitude was, let's talk about the future and what the vision of the community is going to be, let's say 10 years from now, all right? And not get hung up on the current problematic stuff that we're doing.
There's always going to be a quagmire or something.
There's always going to be those issues. Right. But the question is, what would be the ideal community? What would we, if everything came together, what would it look like? And then I heard things like, well, there should be a restaurant in Main Street. I mean, different things like that. And those things started to really come together. And but
people have to get beyond the immediacy of these.
Exactly, and they have to feel free that they can express their opinion and that this guy isn't going to embarrass them, that he's going to honor their opinion without at the same time allowing the entire group to get hung up and stuck on that one particular issue. And I was able to do that. The other thing that's interesting about it is that once you have been there and you hear them pour out their hearts, about the community and the future of the community, well then you can kind of come back and say, hey, we're in a position, we might as well do the strategic plan for you. Right. We could certainly do that. Or a portion of that would be the marketing plan. Maybe we should rebrand the community based on the feedback that we heard from you. And so there are some components that could flow out of a successful facilitation of a planning session.
But you at least start to get the wheels turning.
You get the wheels turning and get people comfortable. Yeah. I don't want to say confiding in you, but at least sharing their personal view with you about certain things.
But otherwise, man, to be stagnant is so paralyzing, and I think people right now, especially coming back online, so to speak, back into the flow. Yeah. They don't have time. They can't afford to be stagnant for too long.
Yeah, I think they even know that. I think they feel like we are stuck. But there is always a conservative group that says, let's hold on to the budget, let's hold on to the money, and we'll just wait till 2021 and kind of see what happens. Until then there's another group that's more forward thinking. Right. We need to get out there. We need to transform downtown. We need to get these young professionals, a few anyway, to come to our community. Right. So we need to launch and initiate some things. And so there's always those two points of view.
But it's too easy to put things off. You know what I mean? To procrastinate and say, well, wait till 2021. There may or may not be a good reason for that. And if there's really not a really good reason, you might as well get moving on something.
And you know what it is oftentimes? It's the civic administration, the mayor, the city council, those people who they see themselves, by the way, as administrators, not opportunity seekers.
Right. Yeah.
And they put Band-Aids on things, right? Oh, there's a pothole. We'll take 3 months and put a Band-Aid on the pothole. Right. So there's those. Then you have the business people, and they're like, we're going nowhere here. In the next 20 years, we're going to die.
Because we're losing.
We're losing ground, you know?
Yeah.
And so you inject yourself into that and try to be the bridge between those 2 points of view.
Interesting.
It is very interesting. Well, Bruce, let me ask you this question. Since we've begun our camaraderie together here on this particular show, and we've discussed a lot of things, right. A lot of great business concepts, and we've had guests and things like that. What pops up in your head as we kind of take a breath and move forward into this very interesting new period? What topics stuck with you or jumped out at you, or things that you thought were particularly memorable, if anything, about the show and its unfolding?
From the past shows?
Yeah, maybe we've gone back about a year now, something like that. Anything come to mind in particular?
I think, and I can't think of the specifics, but I think one of the most insightful things that I recall was we were grabbing things out of a hat one day.
Yes, oh yes.
And they were more philosophical sayings,
yes,
or thoughts.
Yes.
And I don't even know where I'm going with that, but I thought it was so intriguing and sort of it
Well, we should
coaxing my brain into
Yes.
into areas where I hadn't thought before. I think that's the thing that I guess I'm coming down to. It's the issue of new thought.
Yes.
You know, that's where, to me, I think that's what makes it fun. I think that's what makes business fun. You've got the things you have to maintain, but I love thinking of new things.
Yes.
Or new concepts.
Absolutely. And I just have to say, I want to stick this in right here as we kind of wrap up the show, okay? New concepts and innovation is what this state, this is called WowBiz Nebraska. I have to say, I'm getting on a little bit of a high horse here. We need to be more receptive to new thinking, right? Eric Ries has a book called The Lean Startup. It was a very powerful book for a while. He said, even the best companies, well-established, well-known, they need to force themselves to embrace startup thinking. And that means looking at ideas, as you have been asked to do. Of course, you don't have anything to lose, really. You're just kind of going with the flow, which I appreciate. But it is very interesting to talk about some of the strategies or concepts or visions or ideas that are emerging between the two of us. And people like the situation I've just mentioned, they need to embrace those thoughts as well. If we don't, we're going to continue to lose at least 3,000 young professionals every year. Huh?
That's going to add up.
Oh, it already has. It's already been.
It's
left an indelible dent in the overall fabric and the weave of our entire state. And we've got to do something to stop that. So introducing new ideas via this show and in other venues, maybe some Zoom meetings down the road. We'll promulgate, kind of inspire more openness to innovation, new ideas, new strategies, new outcomes, hopefully, and we'll be part of the mix right here on WowBiz Nebraska. Thank you so much for being here this week.
Thank you.
We'll see you again very soon. Bruce Arant with ArantCreative.com, one of the greats. I'm Lynn Hinderaker, not necessarily one of the greats, but I'm here, and we are moving forward into the future. WowBiz Nebraska. We'll see you next time. It'll be good, I promise. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.